the banks have finally started blowing up, and I'm loving this because my job is easy in this scenario. I spend all the time on this show talking about fiat's going to melt down. It's all a scam, blah, blah, blah. Centralized crypto or banks, doesn't matter. Inflation is destroying your savings. It's all going to work out for the worst. And what do you know? It has been. So in the last week, essentially, inflation has obviously been rising as it has for a long time. And so in response, the Federal Reserve have been raising interest rates. Now, this has had the effect, long predicted by a lot of people, that it would crush asset values. So government bonds in the US and stocks. And what the biggest problem there is not the initial impact of that, but the secondary impact, which is that a lot of banks have those assets on their balance sheet. So their balance sheet assets are dropping in value, but they still have the same amount of liabilities in terms of depositors that they have to be able to make whole. We've also, of course, had the FTX collapse, which not only means that a lot of money has vanished from people who thought they had money, but also customers are more wary and aware of these custodian risks outside of crypto. So that's now caused two major bank runs, which we'll just talk about quickly separately. So the first one was this bank called Silvergate. So I'm going to put in quotation, the better of the two. They've handled it better. So they put themselves into voluntary liquidation. So they have $6.3 billion in deposits and apparently around $4.5 billion in assets. They previously had much more in assets, but because of these changes in their asset values, they realized, okay, guys, we're in trouble. And they said, look, we're just going to walk away. We're going to wrap this up. They haven't been taken over by regulators. So apparently things are at least on a good enough keel that they're being proactive, right? Saying, oh, okay, we're going to wrap things up. They're going to pay out all their depositors and presumably their creditors as well too. At least that's what they're saying. And the ones who are taking the loss are the shareholders, which is obviously not ideal if you're a bank shareholder. But on the other hand, that's how shareholding works. If you have shares in a bankrupt company and they go bankrupt, you're out of luck. Tough luck. That was the risk of holding the shares. So as far as this being a disaster in terms of the actual bank closing, it seems to be fairly orderly, but of course it is potentially the canary in the coal mine for broader systemic issues.